for most of my 15 years at Antioch, I've been teaching in the Center for Creative Change with Dawn and other colleagues whom I value greatly. And I just want to say I feel honored to be part of Antioch's community, to work with the students and the faculty. It's really been a joy to be part of this institution, and increasingly it's difficult to look at myself in the mirror every morning and come to a place that doesn't value the contributions faculty are making. When I say it doesn't value, I know there's lots of lip service to that, but if you look at the facts, you'll see that there's something else happening. So what I've been asked to do is describe my experience, and I want to let you know that it's representative of other faculty here. And please believe me that the staff are at least as squeezed and stressed and have as much difficulty making ends meet and in meeting their obligations, perhaps. Doing it with great resilience and love of the students. I think the students are what bring us here every day. It truly is an honor to work with you. It's inspiring, and it's hard to keep feeling. Here we are in a place that says it's about social justice, and where is that? All right, so when I first started here 15 years ago, my wife had started at the same time in the K-12 program. I'm going to get back to her, but I want to just use that as a kind of a touchstone. So 15 years. My workload at the time was 18 credits. We were required, if you're core faculty, to teach 18 credits. In the Center for Creative Change, that would be approximately 6 courses. Now, and for some time, it's 27 credits. So basically 50% increase. My salary has basically not changed since coming here 15 years ago. My workload has. My wife's salary started at, I'll just put it this way, well under $10,000 lower below me. It is well above that now. Before the strike that the school system just went through, the public school system here had the teachers struck and were successful in getting a raise. I don't yet know how that differs, but this is not to take away from my wife's great work. I think she and other K-12 teachers deserve that money. We're not getting that additional increase, though we are getting that increase of workload. And it's workload in other areas as well, not just classes. That has an impact on our ability to buy housing and et cetera, but also it has an impact on our interactions with our students because we're working more classes. I think some of my best teaching happens when, of course, all of you know, those of you who've seen me in the cafe, I'm sitting in the cafe a lot drinking coffee, right? Really what I'm doing is I'm sitting down with anywhere from 1 to several students, and we're interacting around the curriculum. That's harder to do when I'm teaching more. It's also harder to do other things around any number of duties that would make your experience richer. Time and attention and energy are part of that mix. When I first came here, the medical benefits were such that I was covered, my wife was covered, and my daughter was covered, and it was just a little bit of added money from my paycheck in order to make that happen. A fraction. Somewhere in between now and then, I had to drop Kelly, my wife, but good news is she could pick it up through the school district. Not long after that, we had to drop my daughter, but good news, the school district could pick that up without it being too costly. But if I had to maintain it here, a significant chunk of my paycheck would have been just going to covering those medical expenses. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of dollars each month, not a little deductible change or tens. It would have broken our ability for me to work here or for us to live here. So as long as you have a spouse with good medical benefits now, you're okay. If you don't, then you're playing Russian roulette with your health or your family's health. It's just that simple. We used to have, this may sound, and I got to tell you, I have a feeling most of you can identify with this. If you or a family member has medical problems and you don't know how to take care of it financially, if that won't occupy a lot of your attention, I'll be surprised. So again, our attention and our energy is diminished if we're not taking care of it at some basic level. I know this is true for many of you, and as a system, we have to get a grip on this. It may seem like a small thing, but it used to be we had a fairly generous, what's called a professional development budget. So in other words, we could go to a conference or two or so each year. We could present. We could be engaged in conversation and learn from those conferences, those professional conferences around things that were to us important in terms of our own scholarship. Increasingly, that's just not possible. We now have, I think, $250 potentially available to us to go to a conference. That won't even get you into a local conference. So inevitably, one is spending out of one's own budget, own personal budget, own pocket to go to a conference. I know I personally probably go to fewer of them as a result. I know I do. I used to take a lot of students to conferences. So the students would present with me. If there's no professional development budget, that makes it harder to do that. That has an impact on the student experience. It's not unusual, even if you're told that's a good idea, yes, let's do it, then when it comes down to it's time to start getting ready for the conference, we're in a budget crisis. So that's not a choice this system tends to make. The reason I'm saying all this is our voice, faculty voice, and I would add staff voice and student voice is diminished when all of these financial constraints keep coming at us. It has an impact on our creativity, our scholarship. It's just, at some point, kind of soul-wrenching to think the place you're putting your own heart and soul into is not doing anything or enough to keep your body and soul together. The only thing that makes it worth doing is the incredible experience of working with the students, the incredible community we build together and have with our colleagues in the various departments. If it weren't for that, Antioch is just not doing this work of social justice to its own people. I understand we have some tight financial situation, and some of that is just the higher ed in general is going through a lot of challenges. But we're working with students on a daily basis. I would hope that that would give us some credibility around the conversation around these issues. I haven't seen a lot of that. I haven't heard expression of I haven't experienced our voices having much impact when I hear back from, especially from afar, from the larger part of the system that is supposed to be supporting us. It's everything from the quality of the computing programs to you name it. A lot of money is going out of our campus. I don't experience it coming back in meaningful ways, including in your experience as a student. I think it's going to show up in a variety of ways, and this new building looks fantastic. In a lot of ways, I'm very excited about that. There are constraints around it that are going to make it more difficult, however, and I haven't yet heard our voices heard on that point. They're probably not hearing the student voice either. It may be that you're in conversation, but space limitations are going to matter. The more we get constrained in terms of our finances, in terms of our voice, in terms of our physical plant, our creativity, and all the heart and inspiration that can happen in a classroom is diminished. It's constrained. So I find myself loving this work and this institution, and at the same time being very conflicted about what it's doing to me and my colleagues and the student experience and the staff experience. I want to say one last thing about staff. In the unit I'm part of, it's technically 3 different units. We basically have one staff person. In the old days, we would have had probably 2 for each of those units. So we have one person heroically doing the job of 6, one person. You kind of wonder, is there going to be a rubber room in this new building for people who are putting in that kind of effort? I know that sounds a little, but it's crazy making. It's not efficient. It's not effective. I think it borders on abuse when we do this to each other. Antioch's not about that. So I hope when I talk about the faculty concerns about finance, space, professional development money, medical benefits, I hope you don't hear that it's just whining about why don't we get more. And please know this is true for the staff. We have an institution that rests on our ability to do our work and your ability to interact with us with our hearts and brains still engaged. And the degree to which we still bring that, I mean, kudos to everyone who's able to do that. I think we still do it, but we're getting very thin. All right, thank you.